Hi, Michael Valitutti. Thanks for joining me once again for Gem Talk. The topic today is opal. Now, we all love opals. Opals are amazing, but it's a little bit complicated. They come in so many different varieties and from different parts of the world that they have this optical phenomena called play of color. Some of them do, and some of them don't. We're going to get into that. It's the birthstone of October. Opal is absolutely fantastic. Now, first off, it is not bad luck. The whole thing, the rumor of opals being bad luck is actually from an 1829 novel called Anne of Gerstein. And in that novel, there was a villain who ended up dying and the opal cracked and all this, but it has not, and that is how the whole rumor that opals are bad luck started, and it has nothing to do with anything. So if you want to know how that started, that's how it started. Opals are not bad luck. They're gorgeous, they're fantastic, and everyone should own one. Anyway, opals are a beautiful stone. It's about 5.5 to 6 on the hardness scale. They're a lot safer to wear than I think a lot of people believe. You can enjoy your opals, and they come in so many different varieties. But let me give you a little bit of the technical background of opal. What makes an opal so exciting? All gemstones form into 7 distinct crystal systems. Opal does not. Opal is what we call amorphous. Amorphous in gemology means without definite form. So it has no definite repetitive form in its molecular structure. That's why we call it amorphous. If you were to take a look at all opal under 30,000 power electron microscope, now this is from my GIA lesson number 19, you can see here 2 distinct patterns. One below my little marker over here is crystal spheres, and these are actually made out of silica, and these are small spheres that are packed very, very evenly, almost like a perfectly stacked container of ping pong balls. That would be your precious opal. That's the opal that's going to show you the play of color. The one beside it, that is going to be your common opal. Now, they're made of the same silica spheres, but you can see that the other one, the shapes aren't perfectly round, and they're kind of stacked in between each other. So you don't get that light interference effect that is going to give you the play of color. Those opals will be, or common opals, will usually tend to be only one color. And I'm going to show you some distinct examples of that. Now, the phenomena that causes that color, that play of color that we call it, that you see here in this picture, is because of the way these spheres are stacked. Specifically, they are ranged from those little spheres that I showed you in that one picture. They range from 150 nanometers all the way up to 300 nanometers. What's a nanometer, Michael? A nanometer is 1/1000th of a meter. Now, a meter, for those that don't understand the metric system, is approximately a yard. So to be approximate and make it easy, it'd be like 1/1000th of a yard. So when those spheres range from 150 to 300 nanometers, they'll give you the range of colors. Specifically, the 300 nanometer, the larger sphere, is going to give you the red hue. The blue is going to be 150 nanometers. Then anything in between is going to give you the various colors. So that is what causes that play of color in opal. Now, opals, like I said, are basically brought into 2 broad categories. And the categories are common and they are precious. The main sources for all opal in the world is primarily Australia and Ethiopia. That is for play of color opal. Other countries like Chile and other places like that, they produce also common opal. So these are the various, when I studied at GIA, this is what they taught me as being the main 5 categories of play of color opal. We're going to start off here with what we call white opal. This is play of color opal on a white background. You can see how beautiful that is. Now, this is just a slice of raw Ethiopian opal. Nothing's been done to it. No color enhancement whatsoever. And you see all that play of color? So right away, we know by when we see those red, that those spheres are 300 nanometers, and the green is probably going to be around 225 approximately nanometers. And if we ever see any blue, that is going to be, which is a rare color to find, by the way, is 150 nanometers. So that is your white opal. The next opal after that, another broad category, is what they call Boulder Opal. This is found in Australia, in places like Cooper Pedy. Now, what is Boulder Opal? It basically means that it formed on the face of a boulder. Here is an ironstone boulder, and this is all natural. And you can see here that a layer of opal has attached itself to this ironstone. You can see that the ones from Cooper Pedy, they got a lot of blue in it. So they're really treasured, and they can be quite expensive. One thing is that these boulders tend to be very botryoidal, kind of bumpy. So this is why Boulder Opal can be hard to cut. This is why sometimes they're made into doublets. But this is another broad category of opal. This comes from Australia. This is called Boulder Opal. Another broad category of opal is what we call crystal opal. This is crystal opal. Now, you see why they call it crystal opal? If you look at it, it's kind of very clean and clear, like a crystal, but it's got play of color. Can you see that? Now, do you see a lot of the purple and blue there? Oh, yeah. This one is very, very special. Some of the most exciting opal colors in the world, the play of color, comes from crystal opals. This crystal opal here comes from, of course, Ethiopia, but you can get crystal opals, very nice examples, out of Australia. Crystal opals are coveted, they're beautiful, and I like to get my hands on them whenever I can. Another broad category is fire opal. Now, fire opal is absolutely fantastic. What makes fire opal superior is that it's totally clean and clear, as you can see here. It's not really opaque. Okay, it's clear, just like the crystal opal, but it only has one color. Now, why is that happening? Well, that's basically happening. Remember when I told you about the silica spheres? Imagine this opal crystallizing, and all the spheres are exactly one size, perfectly stacked. You know what that means? That means that only one color is going to be visible to the human eye. And this is why we have this incredible, beautiful Mexican fire opal. And even though fire opals have been found in other areas like Campo Borgas, which is in Brazil, the majority, 95%, comes from Mexico and is still referred to as Mexican fire opal. The other type of opal that you're going to get, and that I do not have an example of, but I do have a photograph of it, is called your black opal. Black opals, and here's the photograph. This is from my GIA, again, lesson number 19. Black opals are considered to be the most expensive. So they are an opal with a play of color against a dark black background. So when you have an opal, if the play of colors are against a darker background, the colors will appear to be more vibrant, more rich, much more saturated. And this is why Boulder Opal is honestly so expensive, but especially when it's the black variety. And black opals, to be a true black opal, won't have a boulder background to it. It'll be one solid slice. I've seen black opals sell for literally tens of thousands of dollars. They're absolutely unbelievable. Now, water content. That's something important for you to understand. Opals can contain up to 20%, believe it or not, of water. Well, where is the water? Because you're looking at the opal and going, I don't see any water. Do you remember the silica spheres? There was voids in between, right? Water gets trapped in there. Now, this is why opals crack, especially the ones from Australia. The ones from Australia have that high percentage of water. So over time, the water can dry out and little minute fissures and cracks will develop in the opal. Okay, that's why it was considered to be bad luck, because in the novel that I told you about in 1829, that opal cracks. So when people used to say, oh, my opal's cracking because it dried out, they figure, oh, it's bad luck like the novel. No, it has nothing to do with it, you know? Anyway, it's like hearing a little creak at night doesn't mean that there's a ghost in the house. So that's what happens to opals that have a high water content. The Ethiopian opals are a different type of opal. They don't have that water content. So there's nothing for it to dry out, which is why the Ethiopian opals are so magnificent. And I'm going to show you here just a loose Ethiopian opal here. And this Ethiopian opal, this one here is, I just took it from my vault, 8-9 years old, not a crack in it. The play of color is fantastic. It's absolutely beautiful, not a crack in it. But it's funny with Ethiopian opals, because if you take that opal and if you immerse it in water, the color completely disappears. When you take it out of the water and it dries, the color magically reappears. What happens is that there's no water content. It'll absorb the water. That is going to change the size and positioning of the silica spheres, its crystal content, and the light won't do what we call light interference, which is what is play of color. But then when it dries out, all the color comes back. So before I move on to the common opal, again, with those silica spheres that are perfectly stacked, what is happening? White light that you and I see every single day is actually made up the colors of the rainbow. That's why when Newton did that experiment, you know how with the triangle made it a crystal, the prism, it actually dispersed light into the various colors of the rainbow. Okay, and that's 400 to 700 nanometer, which is basically the wavelengths. So you get the blue, the greens, the yellows, the reds, and that is what makes up white light. So when white light hits that technically uneven surface, it enters it, right? And what happens is because all the spheres are different sizes and in slightly different position, as it goes in, it gets interfered. The light starts to refract and bend and break up. And because those components of that white light are technically traveling at different wavelengths, when they're interfered with, when they come back out, some are separated and some cancel each other out, which is why when you see a play of color opal, you'll just see the green or you'll just see the red. And as you turn it, right, the color will change into another color because you're changing the position of how that light is entering the stone and it's affecting your eye. Because color really only exists because we human beings have the eyes to see it. It's like if we had no ears, would there be sound? Well, not really. It's only sound because we can hear it. And there's only light because we can physically see it, especially when it comes to color. So that is the optical theory behind play of color. And that theory of light interference is also what gives you the color. If you remember the old CDs that we used to use back in the 80s and the 90s, and you see the colors of the rainbow, that effect is also caused by that phenomena, light interference. And when I do other stones like labradorite and all that, I'll show you how that effect also plays into those other stones. There's also another broad category of opal called common opal. And I kind of hate the word common opal because it makes it seem like, oh, it's just regular. There's really nothing spectacular about it. But common opals are absolutely gorgeous. So there are certain traits that a common opal is going to have. Usually, because of the way the silica spheres are stacked, it will usually be just one color, and almost always it will be opaque. So here is an example of pink opal. This is absolutely gorgeous, and this is just an incredible example of common opal. Now you see, look how beautiful that is. That is 100% opal, and that is natural pink opal. That comes from Chile. Here is another source from Chile of beautiful, beautiful, beautiful opal. This actually comes from Peru. Sorry, this is Chile, this is Peru, and this Peruvian pink opal is absolutely beautiful. Now the color is completely natural. It's untreated. It technically falls under the category of common opal, but I don't think there's anything common about it at all. I think it's absolutely spectacular. Opal can even be purple. This is common opal, and it's a natural purple color. This came from a distinct mine in Mexico, believe it or not. It's from northern Mexico, and it is all natural opal that is purple, which is absolutely beautiful. Another famous color of opal will be, of course, the yellow opal. And I'm going to do something very special with this yellow opal because I'm going to show you that. Remember what I said about them being opaque? That's true most of the time, but sometimes, look at this, it can be translucent. So here it is. This is translucent opal. It is yellow. It comes to us from Brazil. And guess what? It's not treated whatsoever, but it falls under the common opal umbrella. Opal that's common can also be blue. Take a look at this opal. This is absolutely unbelievable opal. And I'm going to try to get that flashlight in there. Take a look at that. That's beautiful opal. Now, this also falls under the opal category of it being common. You can see little streaks of green, and you can see little streaks of blue. So if the silica spheres that make up this opal, were round and arranged perfectly, you would have play of color. But because they're kind of haphazard, you're only getting one color. So that's basically the distinction between these. Also, common opal like this sometimes can absorb other minerals. So in this particular instance, if it has just a little bit of copper in there, that's just going to enhance the blue. That is really not going to happen with the other opals. Opal is an incredible, incredible family of gemstones. And opal infiltrates so many other minerals. For example, they have opalized dinosaur bones, believe it or not, because as the opal is forming, if there is a deceased dinosaur in the ground, right, its bones, you know the little cracks and crevices when the bones fossilize? Those are filled, believe it or not, with opal. So they can find dinosaur bones, and they're these streaks of precious play of color opal. It's fantastic. They also find fossilized wood, ancient wood that has opal in it. So opal is really this unbelievable, beautiful gemstone, and it's the only one that has this phenomena that we call play of color. But like I said, there's a play of color opal, they call that precious, and then there's the common opal, which I've just shown you examples, which is just one color. What I love about opal is and thank you for Ethiopia, because they have made opal so affordable. It has changed the world of opal. And the reason that I often present and often really pay homage to the Ethiopian opal is that it has allowed a quality of opal on the market that literally every man and woman on the earth can afford. When I began in this business back in 1980, a long time ago, really good play of color opal was an absolute fortune. I used to pay more wholesale for opal back then, because it only came from Australia in 1980, than today. You can go even to a retail store and buy a good Ethiopian opal for. So Ethiopian opal, all natural, untreated, that play of color has given more opal to the world and greatly reduced the prices so more of us can enjoy this incredible gift of nature. Again, with opal, you do not have to be born in October to enjoy it. Whether it's the Boulder Opal in a beautiful man's ring, or whether it's an opal necklace, whether it's an opal ring, it's a beautiful stone. Maybe you like the play of color, maybe you love the common opal, the wonderful pinks and the yellows, or maybe you're a gal or a guy that loves that precious fire opal out of Mexico. Opal has everything you want in every single price point. If you want to see more opal, join me at www.gemsonvogue.com. We got a lot of opal at fantastic prices. Thank you for joining me for another Gem Talk.